everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talk Bridal to Me. I am here with Sydney Baye, who is an amazing photographer here in the Pacific Northwest. She has 8 years of experience in the photography world and is incredible at what she does. So Sydney, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So right off the bat, you're such a fun personality. Mm-hmm. How would a client describe you? Like they walk into your studio, what are they going to say?
Oh, loud. They'd probably say loud. I think they would say bold. I hope they would say kind, enthusiastic, and welcoming.
Yeah.
At least when it's in my studio.
Mm-hmm.
My studio is my space. When they come into my space, I want them to be taken care of. I want them to have water. Are you hungry? But when we meet on site or if it's a wedding, I still like to be welcoming, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I saw the short film that your husband made for you for your birthday.
Yeah.
And you strike me as the, just laissez-faire, I'm going to do what I want kind of person.
Yes.
Do you feel that helps you achieve such incredible results because you're not following the rules?
Yeah, I've always struggled to follow rules. Actually.
Yeah.
But I think there are various amounts of photography styles, and mine is much more documentary, journalistic, candid. So for my style of photography, my personality does really come into play. Because instead of, telling a couple or a group shot like, okay, everyone laugh, it's more like I try to make them laugh. And that's kind of outside of the box of your standard portraiture wedding photographer. So I think throughout the day, I become friends with my clients for sure, but usually the majority of the wedding, by the end of it, I'm friendly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'd say breaking the rules helps with my style.
Absolutely. I know for my personality, I don't like to be in charge of other people. Really? And I don't think I would make a very good wedding photographer because I'd be like, well, if you guys are interested, just, get together for a group shot. You don't have to if you don't want, that's the kind of personality I feel like I would be.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just one-on-one with a client when they're sitting in my chair, I love that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that girl that has a million friends. I just have a couple close ones. And I just like that closeness.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I would argue, though, I'm the one sweating out of my armpits right now. You're totally chill and doing great. So I think you're better with people than you think you are. I think you'd be just fine. Your mannerisms and people skills are great.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm not pursuing a career in photography anytime soon because I have too many things on my plate.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. And you are excellent at understanding your client and genuinely care for them. I mean, even just walking into your home, you're like, do you want water? Are you hungry? Look at this. And you're just a very people-oriented person. And that's so amazing. Have there been times where you have changed up the timeline or agenda or a moment to best suit your client because you're looking out for their best interest versus the timeline of the day?
Yes. And it's got me in trouble before. Several times.
Okay, tell me about it.
Okay, so years ago, I had a wedding across the country, and I would say I was newer. I mean, I was a good 3-4 years into it, which still, to me, even if you're amazing, 3-4 years into the industry, you're still new. You're still learning. You don't have all the wisdom yet. I mean, no one ever has all the wisdom, but
right.
Jesus.
Yes.
Anyways, but the wedding planner sent me, and she'd been in the industry for a long time. The wedding planner sent me the timeline. And I don't know what I was doing. I was busy because, of course, we all are. And I briefly looked at it, and I was like, yep, great. And I told her, great. Because I was packing to go. I don't want to say where it was.
That's okay.
But I was packing to go across the country for the wedding, and I was super pregnant. And I was due in 6 weeks. I probably shouldn't have done the wedding. Regardless, come wedding day, I was panicking because I was looking at the timeline and I was like, oh my gosh, my bride and groom, I only have 20 minutes for their portraits and there's a million moving pieces. We're in 3 different locations. It's a new city. We're getting in Ubers. But there was 2 hours for all the detail photos.
Yeah.
And so that was a perfect example. And granted, I fully take responsibility because I should have been like, hey, listen, like, we need to reorganize this timeline. That's not enough time for my clients to get their photos of the biggest day of their lives thus far. And so come wedding day, I tried to fit it in where I tried to fit them in more photos where I could.
Yeah.
And it definitely got me in trouble because it threw off the timeline. Granted, no one was late for the ceremony.
Yeah.
Everything ended up working fine.
Yes.
But I, in the moment, had to take action because here's the best day of their life. And they wouldn't have received the amount of photos they deserved for their wedding day if I would have just followed the timeline.
Yeah.
But again, that was totally my error. I should have called it and see it. So now I'm heavily involved with making my client's timeline.
Yes.
I'm usually the one that makes the first draft. I send it off to the wedding planner and my couple, and then they'll say, oh, you know, this extra 10 minutes doesn't work. Or, but yeah, I mean, you know, as the wedding photographer, I think the planner runs the show behind the scenes.
Yes.
But the photographer runs the show with the guests and with the couple. And if you're not willing to break the rules or think outside the box, then your clients are the one to pay the price.
Yes.
You know,
that makes sense. Yes. Well, and I know just with my industry, I work with the photographer to figure out what time does the bride need to be ready. And I create from that moment beforehand, you know, so I back count and figure out, okay, how many services do we have? How many times is it going to take? Work with the hairstylist, and we create that morning timeline. So there's a lot of moving pieces.
So many moving pieces.
When it comes to a wedding day.
So many moving pieces.
Yes. Absolutely.
And then, you know, you also never know, like, from the makeup standpoint, like, okay, one person may take 20 minutes, or will you tell me? And then where another bridesmaid's like, I don't like that. And there are always those bridesmaids that think that it's their day. And it's like, shut up, Erica. Like, you look fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I want my shadow redone.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I haven't really encountered that too much.
Oh, good.
And I feel like a lot of my brides have a similar style as their friends as far as their makeup desires. Every once in a while, I will have that person that's like, I want this, and they'll show me a crazy look, and I'm like, we don't have an hour and a half.
Totally. Yeah.
But we can do this, and we can modify it and make it look similar. Yeah. And I always want a happy client.
Yeah.
And so we make it work.
Yeah. I've had to step in numerous times. And I mean, not in a rude way, but in a, hey, you look awesome. I know you're not done, but can you get out of the chair because I have to take my bride in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and I think sometimes it could put the makeup artist off a little bit, but if they know my intentions, which aren't to be like rip one client out, put the bride in, it's more to like keep the timeline going.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any tips that you have for the morning timeline as a photographer? Like, do you see little things where you're like, ooh, if they could do this, it would make my job easier?
That's a good question. I would say give yourself ample amount of time. I mean, for sure. I always, when I make timelines, I always have 30-minute buffers a few times throughout the day.
Yeah.
So all girls ready, 30-minute, and I put in parentheses like buffer time, but also time that I could just be taking more candid.
Yeah.
And also before the ceremony and a few other times. But I would say actually one thing, a lot of brides want to get ready at the very end because they're like, I want my makeup to be the most fresh. Well, which is totally valid.
Yes.
The things never go exactly as planned.
Yes.
It's like planning your labor and being like, I'm going to get to a 3 at this point, 7 at this point. It's like, not
you
really.
Can't plan that, honey.
I mean, maybe you can plan this a little more.
Yes. Well, and your husband's a filmmaker.
He's a filmmaker, yeah.
So you guys are kind of both in the film video space. Was he doing film before you were a photographer then?
Gosh, was he? No, he had a software startup.
Okay. So he was still kind of in the technology space.
Yeah, he was in tech for we've been married 10 years. He was in tech like the first half of our marriage, 5 years, and then he's been doing film for 5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And he does corporate film.
Yeah.
So, people are always like, oh, you guys must work together. And I'm like, nope. Like, we're either married or we work together.
Yeah.
Like, we're not the couple that's like, we drive to work together and we take lunch breaks. It's like, he does his thing, I do my thing. Yeah. Sometimes we cross over. Like, he's really good at making contracts. or proposals, and like that's not my thing. And so I'll be like, hey, I have this big event in Los Angeles. I need you to, here's all the details. Can you make this contract for me? And he will. Or sometimes like, during some commercials he's filming, he'll need a voiceover. Yeah. And he'll be like, can you do this? And I'll say, yeah. Yeah. But we don't really cross paths. Don't really work-wise. Yeah. Yeah.
Ron, you were talking earlier about cutting a gal's dress with a knife. Do you have any other funny stories that have happened to you while on the job?
Oh, yes.
Tell us some. I'm all ears. I love these kinds of stories.
Oh, gosh. 99% of them have to do with me opening my stupid mouth. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh.
I said that.
Oh, no. So in the first few years of photographing, and I'm still friends with these people. Yes. And that's one thing that I love about my job is like, I really feel like I have a genuine connection with 98% of my clients. Yes. And we stay in touch and I send them baby gifts and like stuff like that. Oh. But first few years I was shooting, it was a destination wedding and the groom was like the most beautiful, his name's Bo. Bo, you're beautiful. He had the most beautiful dark skin, right? Yes. Well, his family had super fair skin. Okay. And like, I don't know how it didn't dawn on me to not think of this, but during the family photos, and they were all super funny. So, by family photos, we're all like giving each other crap and having fun and I'm photographing it all. And so during family photos, I'm like, he's with all of his siblings. He has 3 very white siblings. Okay. And I'm like, Bo, what are you, the mailman child? Like, look how different you look from your siblings. And the brother was like, yeah, he has a different dad than us, you prick. Like, he was giving it back to me, like, trying to be funny. Yeah. But I was like, yep, you do, don't you? Sure. But the dad wasn't there because he's not involved in his life. And after, everyone was dying laughing. But inside, I was like, dying on the inside. My gosh, like, how are you that dumb? Yes. But again, in the moment, we were all just having fun. Yeah. But then throughout the whole night, like, several people were like, what you said to him was so funny and da-da-da-da. But you're like, on the inside, I'm crying. On the inside, I was melting. Melting. Yeah. There was one time where the best man during the toasts, his whole speech was on all of the crazy women his best friend had been with before he met the bride sitting. And he was talking about one night stands. He was talking about just crazy women. And he was like, oh, and he had a lot of them. He was just going on and on. He was belligerently drunk. And I took the mic from him because I was standing right there, photographing the bride and groom's, reactions. And so I took the mic and I was like, great speech. Let's keep going. And I'm pretty sure everyone in the crowd was like, thank you for interrupting that moment. Yeah. That's terrible. I'm sure you've seen terrible speeches. Yeah. But then when I gave my speech at my best friend's wedding, it literally was like identical to every basic white girl speech that I've heard 10 trillion times. And like when I was done writing, I was like, oh, this is literally like this looks like every other speech. It all starts out like, oh, Michaela and I met back in the day in college. And we were inseparable. And then my speech was that. Yeah. So it's like I can't be too strong about it because I'm sure I'll think more. I have a lot, but that's okay. Off the top of my head, that's what I got. Yes. Yeah. Well, I know you had mentioned before, if you had to do your wedding over again, you would elope and keep our group to only the people we have framed on the walls of our house. Oh, I did say that, didn't I? I love that. And I was like, oh, that's so good. Do you feel like the pressures of the wedding day and expectations of others influence the bride when it comes to her wedding? Yeah. Yes. I mean, most of the time, it's not the bride's wedding. It's like, it's her parents' wedding. It's her in-laws' wedding. It's, I got married really young. I got married at 20, which like hindsight, I'm like, oh my gosh. I was 23. Yeah. Okay, so young. And like we were babies. Yeah. Now I'm 32 and it's like, I probably wouldn't take much input from people.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, like if my husband and I were to get married today, and we always talk about it, we would probably go to like Spain, Portugal, and we have 20 people and we have really good food, some sort of live music, and just like enjoy each other's company.
Yes.
We're so much of a wedding now. It's about the show and it's about pleasing people and it's about the Instagram shots, and it's not about that. No, it's about the people you love and it's about the commitment you're making to the person across from you.
Yes.
And people get caught up in things.
Absolutely. What advice do you have for someone looking for a wedding photographer?
Ooh, that's very good. I would say meet with them. Personality is a huge part. You are with your photographer more than you're with your partner on your wedding day. Like you're with them from essentially when you wake up to when you not go to bed, but you know what I mean, like the exit,
the end of the night,
right?
Yes,
that's a minimum of 12 hours. You don't see your partner until 2-3 o'clock, or depending on sunset that day. I would say meet with them. I would say ask to see full weddings. That's a huge one because I feel like I'm not good at Instagram. I'm just admitting not. Like I want my focus elsewhere, on my clients, on my kids, on making my home feel like home for my family. Like that stuff is my passion. But we see all this gorgeous imagery online, and that is only such a small part of your wedding day. Is that like really great spinning shot or that really great kissing shot? But when you look at a full wedding, is that photographer capturing how you want to remember your day? Meaning, like, do you want to I don't ever want to offend people. That and that is where I find myself struggling answering this question.
That's okay.
You just want to look at the full wedding because you want to see what you're going to get. Right? Some people, I literally had brides say to me, I don't really care about anything. I just want a lot of photos of Kavan and I. And it's like, okay, great. So that wedding, I don't focus as much on candids because I know my client, that's what she wants. She wants her husband. That's the focus. She admittingly said, I don't care about anything else. But some people, it's like, they want to remember their grandma walking in the wedding because she only has another month or two to live. And when you're so focused on just the couple, which it's easy to because they're the prettiest of the day. But you're missing out on everything that's else is going on. So I'd say meet with your photographer and look at full weddings. And I've had a lot of clients go as far as like Instagram messaging other clients of mine. Like I had one bride specifically, and I love her. She is like to this day one of my favorite brides. But I was out of her price range. It was a big decision for her to book me, and I told her I'd give her time, but that I would hold her day. And I didn't know this, but she was going through my Instagram and messaging other brides of mine because sometimes I would tag them. And I had several brides be like, "Oh, so and so reached out and she wanted to know my experience with you," and she ended up booking me. But I was really impressed. Like she did her due diligence. But a photographer is and should be, in my opinion, one of the greatest expenses of your wedding day because it's how you remember your day. So that would be my advice.
Absolutely. Where can listeners find you online?
Ooh, like
do you have a website?
Yes.
You're like, Google?
What's online? What does that mean? I have, you can Google me. I have a website, www.sydneybaye.com.
There you go.
I have an Instagram. My Instagram is Sydney Baye, Baye. Everyone gets that wrong. And that's it.
Sounds great. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.